Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Healing Me First podcast. I'm your host, Chef Beee, and I am here with my lovely, wonderful guest, Dr. Nell Cobb. So today we're going to be talking about living our life like it's golden. We love that song, right?
Mhm.
So tell the listeners a little bit about you and a little bit about your background, Dr. Cobb.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and privilege to be on your podcast. I come as a person that's very passionate about people and passionate about education and family and friends and all of that. And through this passion, I've been able to carve out what's important to me in life. Okay.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, as you know, in 2009, it's 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and thought that it was not as extensive as it turned out to be. Um, but that actually gave me an opportunity. Okay, so I
Mhm.
turned it into an opportunity to try to investigate and research the best life I should live.
Oh, wow, I
Okay,
love that.
yeah. And
Yes.
so, yeah, and so what I mean about that is what's best for me to eat, what's best for me in terms of movement, what's best in terms of spirituality, um, building relationships, both in my family circle and outside in terms of friends. And so all of that
Yeah.
was what I focused on.
So I want us to back up a little bit. I want you to give folks a little bit like a little bit of information about you and what the work that you've done. And really just how did you get to that place where those things became a priority? So just tell them a little bit about just you, like in your like where you from and the kind of work that you've done in the past.
Okay, so let me just back up and just say that I'm from a family of three. And we had three siblings, or I have two siblings rather. And my mother and my father. My mother was a very good cook, and my father was too. But my mother kind of cooked for a living, and she also was domestic, so she would clean other people's houses. My father was I don't know, he drove a tractor, so I don't know, that's the description that they had for him at International Harvester, and he worked at night. So and my father only had a third grade education because he had to leave school and help his siblings. So that's the educational foundation that I came from. My mother was not a reader, nor was my father, but my mother was really good in math. I mean, arithmetic. So what we would do is she would play games. We'd go to the store and we'd have a basket of groceries. And she would say to me, so how much do you think this is going to cost? And I would say, I don't know. And she said, well, just start looking at it. So look at the prices and then kind of figure out what that needs to be. But miraculously, she would get almost to the penny. And I thought, whoa, she's really smart. And she goes, no. And then she taught me about estimation at a very, very early age. And so I think that's the reason that I went into mathematics education because of my mother. I went to school not even planning to go to college. I went to college and didn't know what I wanted to do, but I looked at the books and I said, "Oh, this calculus book is like thin." So I chose calculus, and I didn't even know it was a branch of mathematics until I got to class. But here's the saving grace: because I was so strong in math and so strong in algebra, didn't have calculus in high school, but went all the way up to trig. I was able to be a math major successfully,
Right. Yeah.
and went on to become a math education professor at DePaul University.
That's
Uh,
amazing. That's
yeah.
so awesome. So I'm curious, I know that health and wellness has definitely become a staple in your life. It's sort of a necessity in your life. Would you say that it's always been that way? This sort of, like, what would you say in terms of your relationship to wellness and health and all of those things prior to, your diagnosis?
Well, in my teens and early 20s, I was always at the gym. So I was always moving and making sure that I was doing strength training and running and all of that. So that was all a part of what I did. I even at that point in my early 30s, when the kids came, started yoga, really early. And I would drop the kids off and I'd go to the gym, get into a class and that kind of thing. So, so it's been always a part of, of what I think about, but the nutrition was not.
Okay.
And so that's where the shift in what I was just thinking this morning. It's like, okay, you got to change this because it's not working for you. And so that's where I started to be more intentional about what I'm putting into my body.
Yeah.
And so that's the part of the wellness that I still kind of work on and
Yeah.
struggle because
And
I
you
can get out and
see that
move
it's really like this ongoing tweaking, right? I think you just kind of hinted at that. You're like, this isn't working. I need to actually shift. I need to do something different. And
Mhm.
then once you figure that out, that might work for a while, and then something shifts again, and then you have to make an adjustment. So it's this ongoing piece, right?
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah. So you said living your life like it's golden. Why? Like, let's talk about just like what that means to you. Where are you now in your journey, your wellness journey? What are you striving for at this time?
Well, I'm striving for balance. Okay. So, I've been retired for 4 years now, but you wouldn't know it because my workload is probably more overloaded than I've ever been. But it's the kind of work that I can get up in the morning and work late at night and not even get paid for. Like last night, I took over a class for a professor and we're online. And the kids at the end, college students, pre-service teachers said to me, "Thank you so much, Dr. Cobb. We really enjoyed your class." That's what I live for. It's like, and I'm not saying that I'm going to continue to do that, but it was so rewarding and so fulfilling too. I went to sleep last night and I had this big smile on my face. It's like, I still got it. I still got it.
Yeah.
But other than work, it's making sure that I have the balance because, and we'll talk about this a little later, because of you, I've been trying to do more plant-based cooking. And so I used your book a lot. And I try to make different recipes. I'm having friends over next week and I'm cooking, making a lunch for them. Yep. And I've been promoting. I said, oh, I gave them your website and all that because that was part of my transition when we started to work together. And so, yeah.
So I want you to share with the listeners some of the things that we've done together. So there have been quite a few pieces on the journey. So I think we started with coaching, right? So you did my 6-month program. Tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about your experience in the coaching program.
Yeah, well, in the coaching program, it was so eclectic. I mean, you introduced me to a lot of things. And it was around meditation. We did a little bit of work with chakra. We did some work around movement, breathing, just things that now I have in my toolbox,
Yeah.
and I pull them up when I need them. Like, for example, the breathing. I was in the ER room uh, for some reason, things weren't working right. And so I started to panic, and it's like, you have the breathing exercises. And so I just did a big inhale, and slowly exhaled. And we did that a lot at the beginning of our sessions.
Yeah.
So those are a number of things that I gained from
Yeah.
working with you around coaching. And actually the periodic check-ins were really good, because I was also working on weight loss, and it
Yeah,
kind of helped me.
that's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And it held me accountable as well, because we check in and you say, well, where are you now? And I was like, oh, I am. I'm actually a little over. Okay, so why do you think that happened? And then we go back and check my plan, and then just review it just to see that. So yeah, so that was really a jump start for me. It really was.
And then I feel like, you're like a really great example of how it's really not, I always say changing everything changes everything. Like I really believe that. That's like my little quote. And I know that we've done a lot of different things. So that was one, the coaching. And then you actually signed up for, during the pandemic, the culinary program, right? And that was that was a year-long program that you were with me along with some other folks. So tell me
Mhm.
about that experience.
That experience I really miss. I want to say that I really miss that experience, but because it was a community of people who were like-minded, and we wanted to extend our repertoire when it came to eating and cooking, and looking at things differently. So out of that group, I at least have two friends still, that I check in with, and we just make sure that we're all good. So, but I love the fact that it was, um, I think every 2 weeks that we would, yeah, every 2 weeks we get together on a Saturday. You would send us the recipe. You'd send us the ingredients so we could do our shopping like the week before. And we'd cook together virtually. It's like, oh my goodness. And we would share just things that was happening in our lives, but we're cooking. And that's what I told. I was at a Black Expo for women last weekend. And so they asked about meditation and that kind of thing. And I said, oh yeah, I meditate. And I said, and so she said, well, oh, and I did a vision board. And on my vision board, I put plant-based. So I'm striving to be more plant-based. And she said, oh, are you vegan? I said, well, not really vegan, but I'm trying to eat more plant-based. And she said, oh, okay. And yeah, and so people were coming to me to ask me, like, what is that?
Wow, really?
Yeah, what is that?
Wow.
I told them, I said, if you want my my guru's website, then send me an email and I'll send it to you. I had about 3 people to
Wow.
ask me for it, so hopefully they'll get. But it's amazing. It was amazing. I look forward to it. We all look forward to it, and we post our food, and we just show each other what we've done with it, which is wonderful because people had different variations, and it's like, oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
The same recipe, right?
Same recipe, but it would be and the way they presented, the way they played it was just amazing.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
oh my
amazing. I
goodness.
guess you really get to see people's individual personality, right? I love that. And
Yeah.
then you also did a number of cleanses. You've done the palette reset too.
I
Yeah.
did. I did. And those are something, when you say reset, that's what it is. It's a reset. It can be a challenge initially, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. But then when you do it and you see the benefits of it, and the benefits are how you feel, how you think, how you're able to move better, how you're able to connect better. It's like, oh my goodness, why don't I do this all of the time? Which
Yeah.
which is what I come back to when things are off. It's like, okay, I have to do a cleanse because I got to get whatever is in my system out. And so that is something that, again, is in my toolbox.
So you're actually about to turn 70 in a few months, which is amazing. And so, I'm curious, you're retired now, you're sort of now creating a whole new life, post-retirement, about to be 70. Like what are some of those components for you to make your life golden as you're sort of moving into this next phase of your life?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. And so I came up with just a few things because I don't want to overwhelm myself. I think if you could do a few things extremely well, then that really helps. So again, I look at nutrition and I make sure that I'm making the right food choices. This morning I've decided that I have to make salad a staple, in my life. I gotta just make sure that I'm doing that a lot more. And I'm also trying to look at in the movement, what is it that I have to do every day?
Mm.
And so I can move. I do yoga. I get up in the morning. I do sun salutations, and then I go through a flow. Um, and this is independent of the classes that I take. So I moved from twice a week with my yoga instructor to once a week. But in between time, every day, I just get up and I do my own routine and
Right.
she takes me through. But the other thing that I have to do, and the weather here, I'm in Indiana, so during the winter weather, it's hard to do, but I walk and I'm close to a park. I walk up to the park, walk around the park, and then come back home and continue with my day. So the walking really helps a lot more. I have a bike and the bike is it's in the basement. So the first year, like last year, I made it to 100 rides. So I'm a Century Club member because I did 100 rides, but
Wow.
it's been hard. But here's the other thing, making connections with people. So that's the third one, around similar goals. So I had a colleague, and him as Bill Crumby. So Bill and I are about the same age, right? And he said, "Oh, Nell, I really want to get back on my bike." He hasn't been on his bike, but he said he need to get on the bike. So I just scheduled 2 days a week for us to ride together. And yesterday was the first time. And so he goes, "Oh, this is great." I said, "Yeah, because it gets me back on the bike too."
Yeah, because you're held accountable, right? Like that's what it's
Yeah,
all about. This community that you were talking about with the cooking, it's really like creating a community in these different areas of your life so that you can stay accounted for, accountable, and then also you just get what you need to get out of it. And it's socialization. It's just so many different pieces of it that come together for us, right?
exactly, exactly. And I felt so much better yesterday, not only because I got on the bike, because he also got on and he said, "My wife said thank you." So it's really good. And then I think the last thing is to make sure that I make time for family, because my family is now spread across the US. I
Yeah.
have them, I have them in Washington State and Denver. I've got them, Indiana. I've got them all over. And I just need to be able to get there. So and also in Georgia, so you're
I,
part of
wa-
my,
I was gonna say, don't
yeah.
forget, don't
I'm
forget it's
going
down here now.
That's for sure. So to just not only say, okay, I'm gonna talk to you over the phone, go and spend some time,
Yeah,
because that
I
the
love that.
babies are getting big and I got to see my babies, so
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that rejuvenates me, just the relationships
I
as
love
well.
that. Yeah. And I'm curious too, like after your cancer diagnosis, you said that that was an opportunity. I wanted you to talk a little bit more about the opportunity you felt like you had, and even just the things you were thinking about as you were going through that process.
Yeah, well, I had my sister at that time at my side, and I was thinking, she's older, my sister was 11 years older, but she really did care for me. I mean, my husband would come in, at that point, he had a business in another state, so he couldn't be there every day, but my sister was. And just to think about her caring for me, and I thought in my mind, will I ever be able to reciprocate, And so that kind of helped me when she needed me. It was just a non-issue. She would say, "Oh, girl, you don't have to." I'd have to drive in from Indiana to Illinois to take care of her. And she said, "That's so long. You don't need to do it. They can find somebody else." I said, "Oh no, they can't," because I
Right.
had to be there. So it was a sense of not commitment, but a sense of service, and it was a service that I wanted to do, to reciprocate what people had done for me. And so I find that a lot. I go to places and I help people, um, cancer victims. I try to get little packages and give to them, or leave it in the room, because when I go for my mammogram, you have women there who are either going through treatment or been to treatment. And so now that I'm in Indiana, I might make a package like once every 2 months, and about 20 of them, and just leave there for women, and just say, give them words of encouragement and that kind of thing. So I think the encouragement, the affirmations, I
Yes.
just needed to affirm that I was going to be I'm blessed and highly favored, which I always believe, and I'm going to get through this. And then the question is, how do I help others get through it as well? But yeah, and so with the breast cancer came a lot of other diagnosed illnesses that I sometimes would say to the doctor, "Oh no, I'm not taking this medicine. What's an alternative to this?"
Yeah.
And would use that alternative, and in most cases it was fine. I do okay with it. Yeah.
So in lieu of all of those things that have happened, in lieu of all of the different, I think, sort of wellness practices that you've now adopted, how has it shifted your health and wellness, your outcomes? Has anything shifted for you that you want to share with the listeners?
Oh, yes. So about a year ago, the medication that I was on, I was borderline diabetic. They took me off of that medication. They cut me down from my blood pressure medication. And I'm also working on another medication that they're trying to eliminate. So the pharmaceutical company is not benefiting from
They're
me, is
not happy about you.
not happy about me. And it's a myth that you can't get off medication, because I know many doctors and people will say, once you're on high blood pressure medication, you can't get off of it. Well, no, you can't get off of it if you don't change the way you're eating, the way you move, the way you're thinking. But you can, and you could do it in a very healthy way. And I think you're much healthier, because my sister was on dialysis, and I remember going into the doctor, and the doctor said that, the medicine sets you up for that, and I thought, oh, he
Yeah.
said, yeah, yeah. And especially women of color, so we really need to be mindful, and not always accept what doctors are saying to us. I'm not saying just be contrary and not do anything.
Sure.
It's just do your research, to see what other what alternatives are out there. And I was going to do an alternative for my cancer diagnosis, but was persuaded not to by my children. So, they had some experiences with other people's parents that, they shared with me. And so I didn't do that. I just went through and they were there. I mean, Eric, my oldest daughter, was in Denver, and she would come in once a month and she would go to treatments with me. She came at the beginning and the end, and then once a month she would come in. So yeah.
Yeah. You're so beautiful, so blessed, and so wonderful. I'm so proud of you. And I love that, in this new phase, you're about to be 70. But I feel like you're like just like aging backwards.
I
And you're
know.
like so serious about your workout routines and just like, this lifestyle that you're now able to fully participate in, because I do know that as educators, it's just so hectic. And we
Mhm.
just crave and strive for these moments where we have some downtime so that we
Yeah.
could really do the things that we want to do. So it's like now you have it. And I've definitely seen you be non-apologetic about your time and what you're doing and what you're not doing. And I really appreciate that. And I love that, you're a model for, folks who have retired, who are in their golden years, and what it could be like, for you. It doesn't have to, oh, you're old. No, 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 no. You like youthful, thriving, and just doing all the things.
Well, thank you. And you're a large part of that. I mean, you helped me along my journey even before I retired. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, and you're what I call one of my bonus daughters. So,
Yes. I'm a bonus daughter, listeners. You hear that? I'm her bonus daughter.
yes, you are. Yes, you are. 'Cause anything around, I mean, almost anything, I'll send you a text or I'll say, I need to talk to you about this. And that's the other thing, the connection with young Black women,
Yeah.
that's something that and then young women in general. So let me just say the youth of it all, because I work in my consultant position and I work with young women. And so I am their coach. At this point, that's what I am. I'm their coach. And so I appreciate all of you. It's amazing. And I appreciate your having me on, and I hope your listeners will gain from it. Even if they're not at this stage, they should be thinking about what it's going to look like when they turn 70.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, so, we are wrapping up now. What would be one or two things that you would want to leave with the listeners as it relates to sort of, living your life like it's golden, aging gracefully, all of those things? What are some things that you'd like to, some final thoughts that you'd like to leave with them?
Yeah, you mentioned being unapologetic, and I was always apologizing for almost everything. At this point, I'm unapologetic. It's like, yeah, I did that. Yep, that's really nice. I can get out on a dance floor and I can move and not know what anybody else is doing because I'm not moving to their beat. I'm moving to my beat,
Yeah.
and that is the metaphor for my life. You
Love
know, I just think people, and especially women and women of color, we need to get out of that. I got to care for this person. I know you do, but it's not all of you that you have to care for someone else. It's about caring for yourself and have a vision. We did this vision board. Make sure that vision is in your mind, because that's going to be your pathway and your guide.
I love that. It's so beautiful. Well, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you were able to get on here and just hang out with me for a little bit. Is there any way that listeners who might want to connect with you with any of the work that you're doing? I know education, just all the work that you do with young people. How can people connect with you, Dr. Cobb?
They can go to well, I have a website. The website is at DePaul University. And so they could either send me an email, ncobb@depaul.edu. And or either go to the website, they can learn more about. I didn't even talk about that, my camp and my my program for girls in the science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM field that I've had for almost 9 years now. So yeah, so they could go to DePaul and just learn more and send me an email if they'd like to talk to me more.
That's awesome. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And if you guys want to connect with me, I'm Chef Bee, and you can go to chefbee.com, and that's B for Be Empowered, Energized, and Engaged, to see all of our offerings, the Palette Reset, or our culinary program, the Transform and Thrive program, or even our meal prep program, Essential Meals to Go. So everything is there. If you want to also schedule nutrition counseling with us, we can also do that as well. So thank you all for tuning in and listening. And thank you again, Dr. Cobb, for hanging out with us and just sharing a little bit of your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you have a blessed day, honey.